Hello and welcome to Record Sports Thursday edition of the Hotline Live. My name is Daniel Conn. I'm delighted this evening to be joined by Record Sports' very own version of Caldwell McManus, Scott McDermott and Keith Jackson. Guys, how's it going?
That's below the belt, that one.
Anyway, he's always delighted, isn't he? Whatever it is, he's thrilled. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by.
Plan it all day.
I think I'm Gary Caldwell in that partnership, though, because I was maybe a ball player. Do you know what I mean?
More cultured.
Oh, man, I just a big catcher, man.
you just hoofs up the park.
More cultured, that's right. Before we go any further, we need plenty of notes for today's show, but Keith, I understand we've got a bit of breaking news, an exclusive that we can share with our viewers.
Yeah, developments at Rangers, and not great news on the face of it, with Ridvan Yilmaz, who was obviously carried off the pitch against Dynamo Kiev the other night. I'm being told that the injury is so bad, the swelling is so bad around the thigh, that he's still not even been able to get a scan to find out the full extent. But the medical department are genuinely concerned by this. There's a feeling that it could be weeks going into months, possibly autumn, before Yilmaz would be in any position to get to make a comeback, which presents a problem for Philippe Clement, because he's obviously gone into a Europa League campaign, got domestic games, busy schedule. So you now have to wonder, is he going to have to reprioritise what he needs to do in the transfer market? Is a left back going to be, one of the first things to at the top of his to-do list? I have a name. This name, I believe, has been circulating around the inner sanctums at Rangers since the end of last season. The name is Brandon Williams, who I don't know if you recall, was a bit of a golden boy when he made a big breakthrough season at Manchester United, yep. But that was about 5 years ago. I think he had about 37 top team appearances that season as a teenager, was being mentioned as a possible fast-tracked into the England setup under Gareth Southgate. It hasn't quite worked out like that for him at Manchester United. He kind of fell out the picture after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer left, and has since had a loan period at Norwich, and I think it was last season he was on loan at Ipswich, playing very regularly, but he is a free agent. He returned to United at the end of the season. United announced in June that he would be they wouldn't be renewing his contract. So he is somebody that's been interested in Rangers for a while, and you just wonder if it comes to pass that Yilmaz's injury is as bad as they're starting to think it might be, then I wonder if Brandon Williams might be a player who comes onto the radar as far as, and I should not use that word, by the way, the radar. I just wonder if he becomes a person of interest as far as Philippe Clement is concerned.
It's interesting. The thing about Williams is he can play left back and right back.
Yeah, he's versatile.
He is versatile, so that will appeal to Rangers if he's somebody that they're looking at.
I think he's actually a left-footed right back.
Right.
No, got that the wrong way around. A right-footed left back, yeah.
I've certainly seen him playing both sides. And like Jacko says, he is or was very highly rated coming through at Man U, and even his loan spells at Norwich and Ipswich. No, I think he did well. I think he did well at both clubs. I think he has had a few issues, I think, off the pitch. If you look at his history, he's kind of, not saying he's been off the rails a wee bit, but maybe lost his way slightly, and that's why ultimately he's maybe found himself as a free agent this summer. But listen, the talent is definitely there. Still only 23 years old. If you can pick him up on a free and his head's right, then on the face of it, it looks like a decent. No, it would be a decent signing for Rangers, especially covering in these areas that we're talking about. In terms of left back, obviously, when Yilmaz goes off the other night, you're thinking Jeffrey is automatically now going to have a few weeks at least at left back. They signed him as a left back, but Daniel, you'll maybe know more than me, but the reports I was getting in pre-season games with Rangers was that he looked a bit vulnerable at left back, looked a bit susceptible defensively, and looked far more dangerous when he played one up the pitch. And that's obviously where Clement used him early this season. He's pushed him on ahead of Yilmaz, so that would be a slight worry for Rangers and Clement if he thinks Yilmaz is going to be out for a lengthy period of time, and all he's got really at left back is Jeff to fill in there if he's not. No, if maybe defensively he's not as strong. I don't doubt. Listen, home games against, with all due respect, Ross County, St Johnstone, Motherwell, whatever. I think you could go away a Jeffy at left back, where he's very attack minded, obviously. But for away games, European games, Old Firm games, you'd probably want somebody a bit more defensively sound. They've also got Ben Davies there, who came on and filled in the other night. He's obviously left-sided, but
in that brief cameo, he showed why he shouldn't be considered for a left back, because I mean he has to get tighter for the cross coming in at the first goal. I thought, he looked like a centre back playing left back. Exactly. He doesn't look comfortable in that position.
He's not comfortable.
So I think there probably will be conversations going on right now as to how do we go about bringing in somebody that can offer us quality cover in that position.
It's a shame for Yilmaz, just in terms of, if obviously with Barisic out the door, it looked as if this was when he was going to get his run. I mean, he's been kind of riddled by injuries and no getting a game. When Barisic was playing since he arrived, but you felt at the start of this season, if he got a run of games, he would be the first choice left back with Jeffy as the backup. If he's picked up another injury and it's as serious as we're hearing, that's a real blow to him and Clement, obviously.
It is obviously worth restating at this point, that the scan has had to be delayed to let the swelling go down. The swelling is worse than people would have imagined. It could well be that they get the scan and they get sort of a bit of good news. They're probably due a bit of good news, but the early indications are it's not looking clever.
We've had plenty of comments sitting in already on this story, guys. And I should say, if you're watching, thank you very much, and get stuck in with your comments. Stuart Keane is written in, guys, saying Robbie Fraser's at the club and he can play left back. Maybe time for him to get a chance. And Rangers Easy OK live on YouTube. Evening, chaps. Free for Williams probably makes sense with Hefty there. Sterling can cover if absolutely necessary. But how many more do you think will sign before the end of the transfer window?
I think they'll sign less than what they should sign, to be honest.
Less than they need.
Aye. I think they need. Watching them the other night, I honestly think they need 5 or 6 in the door. No.
Just like starting players?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Aye, pretty much to get into that. If you're being serious about challenging for a title and you want to actually do something, your Europa League group, I think the standard has to go up drastically, and that means 5 or 6 coming in, as you say, that are ready to start. We talked about Czerny last week. Just the first time you watched Czerny in the first couple of games, he just looked that wee bit level above. When you look at his pedigree and you think, right, that's the standard that they need coming in the door. I don't think there's been enough of that, and obviously he's only a loan player at the moment. But so I think they probably need 5 or 6. Whether that means so many going out the door, I don't know. But my fear for Rangers fans would probably be that there's maybe only 2 or 3 coming.
I think they're going to have to be window shots. They're going to have to be creative, aren't they? Because obviously, I think it's fair to assess there was probably a plan A, a list of players that if they did get access to the Champions League,
of course,
they could go after with reasonable hope of being able to get deals done financially. That list is now crumpled up and chucked away. So they'll have to activate the kind of B-listers.
Yeah.
And it'll be very interesting to see. I mean, we're talking about the need for quality. Is it worth sitting Hadji down and saying, look, I know you're due a wage rise, but we need you to play. Would you consider parking this? Is it worth thinking outside the box a little bit and having a conversation saying, we could really do with you?
Well, it might be because...
And give us 6 months and then see where we're at in December. And at which time you've had a Europa League campaign, you've got a few more quid, you can maybe give them a deferred payment on... If $6,000 a week or whatever is the problem just now, maybe think outside the box.
Another thing is, if ultimately you're going to sell Hadji and he's going to go, would it not make sense to play him and get the value up a bit, show potential?
Because right now he's a guy that they've considered not to be good enough for the Rangers first team.
He's a Rangers B team player at the minute.
Yeah.
If you're a buying club and you're thinking about him, you're worried about that in terms of the level he's at just now. but you're also, in terms of Rangers' bargaining position, trying to get any sort of fee. I mean, it's a nightmare for them.
Well,
So,
I would. You can only think that there must have been some sort of conversations. But when you've got guys like Hadji and Cantwell, and you're crying out for more creative quality in the final third, there has to be conversations. There has to be, because especially now that they're going to have to kind of scale down their ambitions in the transfer market because the lack of Champions League money. Well, be creative. Be creative.
Mhm.
You've got a couple of good players. Is there a way of sitting them down, having a cup of coffee, and finding out? You know, I might not need to go and spend massively on a number 10 right now. If between the two of them, you could bring them into the equation and consider them. But I doubt that's going to
and
happen.
listen, here's another one. You spoke last night about Conor Barron coming in. He's been arguably Rangers' best player pre-season, start of the season. So why would you not look at the Scottish market? I mean, for me, there's been a real snobbery on no.
It's mismanagement. That's what it's been.
And listen, Celtic are guilty of it as well, by the way, in terms of skilling for the best Scottish talent and going getting them. Now, so you look at your likes of Lennon Miller, David Watson, young, talented young Scottish players. There are others out there. Probably going to talk about Luke McCowen at Dundee is another one. I know he's a bit older.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're Clement, I get the impression with Clement that Conor Barron wasn't really his
idea.
Aye, honestly, the way he talks about him, he said last week in a press conference, it struck me. He said, I mean, this is a boy that couldn't get a game with Aberdeen. It's a big jump coming to Rangers, and I'm not sure if he'd have
After slaughter him saying, well, he's no John Lundstrom.
Exactly. I'm not sure he'd have been one of Clement's first signings.
I think Niels Coppen is the guy that's making the final decisions on the players. I'm sure that Clement will be involved in the conversations, but I get the feeling that Coppen is the guy who ultimately makes the decisions.
I agree.
And I think that talking about Scottish talent, we mentioned the interest in Shankland, the conversations that were going on. Should they go for a bid before the season starts? Should they not? And the priority was made to go for Robin Proper instead.
Yeah.
So Shankland's still a thing. He's been talked about often enough. Is somebody going to make a decision? But the information I'm hearing is that the manager, the board, see a lot of sense in it, but Niels Coppen isn't sure at all.
Over the years, Jacko, tell me if I'm wrong, Rangers have had success in the Scottish market.
Yeah.
You get back to your Nacho Novo, Kevin Thompson, Stephen Whittaker, Kurt Broadfoot. Loads of guys. I know there's been a few in there that
Naismiths, Boyds, Neil McCann's.
Exactly. So I don't understand why it feels like the last 10 years or so that's been kind of abandoned. They would much rather go abroad or go down south for players. And I think it's wrong. And as I say, Conor Barron, I don't think he'd have been fans' first pick to come in. I don't think he was Clement's first pick to come in. But you're now looking at him thinking, this boy's actually decent, can do a job. So if he can do it, there are others out there as well.
I've got actually some breaking news of my own, guys. We're obviously talking at the moment as St Mirren and Kilmarnock are playing in the Europa League. Unfortunately, St Mirren are 1-0 down to Brann after 10 minutes. But Kilmarnock are 1-0 up in Tromsø.
Oh, good. Wow, great.
Joe Wright has scored after 11 minutes, so it's 1-0 there, and we'll keep you updated with the scores throughout the game. This discussion about Rangers transfer window seems to have ignited the comment section, guys. I'll throw a few of these at you before we move on. Gary Taylor. These players, Hadji and Cantwell, wouldn't play at 100% if they were back in the side. No player looking for a transfer would risk getting injured. Kenneth Elliott says Rangers need to look at Dan Armstrong. And he also says Rangers need 4 more players, left back, centre back, attacking mid striker. And he puts forward Ioannidis, the Panathinaikos forward. Where's the other one? I think that was me, actually. But aye, plenty of talking points.
You suggested Ioannidis.
No. I mean that was me, Dan.
Give us the background on him.
What's his attributes?
He's 24 years old, plays with Panathinaikos.
Of course he is.
I've actually just googled him, so. Aye, but I mean, certainly, whatever way you look at it, plenty of work for Rangers to do in the next couple of weeks, and
not
without,
a lot of resources.
Yeah,
I was going to say, without much money to do it.
yeah, and they need to get players out. No, I've said it. I think Clement said it as well, that they probably can't go and pay transfer fees for players unless they get guys like Cantwell, Hadji, and others out the door. So, and that's the thing about talking about Niels Coppin, this role, whether it's head of recruitment or sporting director, whatever it is, you always just think it's about getting players in. Arguably the toughest part of the job is to get players out, but it's a key part of it. And I don't think Rangers have been good enough at that over the last few years.
Tell you another one,
getting proper fees for players and doing it right.
You're mentioning Scottish talent and why Rangers and Celtic don't look in their own backyard. Rangers don't even need to look that far. They've got Alec Murray playing in the B team, and I saw a clip of him scoring another stunning.
He scored a cracker.
Really talented young boy.
That's
why
true.
are you not getting the best out of that kid? Because he looks to me like a player that probably when Joe Aribo left the club, I was thinking that's an opportunity for this kid to get in. He's nowhere near it. I don't know if that's down to his attitude. Certainly not down to his talent.
No, everything you hear about Lowry is that the talent is there in abundance. It's to do with attitude, hard work, tracking back. I don't know the boy. I don't know what he's like personally. Speaking to a few people that played with him at Hearts, he is quite cocky, but maybe in a good way. There's nothing, no saying there's anything wrong with that, especially playing in that position, number 10. But as you touched on last night, if Cantwell and Hadji are out the picture, Tom Lawrence is the only guy they've got.
That's why
So do you know even maybe not have him on the bench just to maybe come up with a bit of...
It's like they're paying a B team full of number 10s. It's the Harlem Globetrotters B team. And I've seen wee clips. The football the B team plays looks more kind of exciting to watch than the football the first team's been coming up with. So
the goal last night was outstanding, but I doubt... Listen, the fact that he's in the B team suggests to me Philippe Clement's already made his mind up about him. So I'd be amazed if he's no sent out on loan again this season.
We've got plenty, a plethora of comments on Rangers coming in tonight. Craig Ferguson says Renato Tapia is a defensive midfielder who Coppin knows from Holland. Bruce Winters has written in, after the Kiev game, it's so obvious that Rangers need a striker now. We should have been at least 2 up before the red card. We're in for a long, hard season with the current strikers. And Jamie Thompson says Rangers are in a bad place and the quality of players is a real concern. They can't hold the ball, can't defend, can't play as a team. The Ibrox board have a lot to answer for.
In terms of the striker, it's flabbergasting that we're still talking about Rangers trying to get another striker in. I mean, It feels like January, at least. I think everybody was saying in January they need to go and sign a striker to have any chance of winning the league. Whether that was Lawrence Shankland or somebody else, they had to go and sign a proven striker. They decided not to, went down another route. Fabio Silva came in. Somebody else came in that January window with Silva. I'm not sure, but Silva came in as the main attacking player in January, and obviously it didn't work. It wasn't even a natural number 9 for
Cortez,
which what they need. Cortez came in as well.
They've got the lesser spotted Danilo as well, but we don't know what's going on there too.
But the fact that listen, I think there was an acceptance last season that Dessers wasn't the answer. A lot of Rangers fans might
an acceptance
disagree with
by
that.
whom?
By punters in general.
But not by the manager.
Well, I think when Clement came in, Dessers wasn't playing all the time. It was when Danilo got injured at St Johnstone, I think. When he got a facial injury, obviously Dessers came back into the team. And credit to him, he stayed there. He gets 22 goals in the season. But I think generally people on the outside thought he's no the answer for Rangers at centre forward. And yet here we are the following season. Not only is he the centre forward, Rangers number 9, he's playing every minute, every game. And Danilo, who cost 4, 5, 6 million, can't get a minute off the bench. So listen, the guy that's wrote in with the positions that they need, he said a striker 100%. They need another striker in the door before January, before the end of the window.
I think what they need is some experience. There's no. They've moved through. They've done the project signing phase, and I see a lot of sense in it. But what they really needed going into these games to try and qualify for Champions League with some experience, guys that are tried and tested. I'm not saying guys that are over the hill, but at a decent age that could have come in and helped the sort of younger players to develop. I don't know where they're going to pull these out or if they're going to manage to pull these kind of guys out of hat now between now and the end of the month. It's only a couple of weeks, so it is certainly one to keep an eye on. But yeah, Brandon Williams, that's the name that might have moved up the pecking order a little bit now that the need has emerged, or could well emerge for an option at left back.
Ingami's one as well. We didn't mention he's there too, so you never know as the season goes on. But
listen, even if he was fit and ready and training with the first team, and even if Danilo was fit and available, and you'd still want another striker.
You would.
You still need as many options, attacking options, goal scorers as you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
So I'm like Scott. I'd be surprised if they don't sign a centre forward. It'll be then a matter of is Niels Coppin has he got the right guy?
That signing again, Daniel, at the moment looks a strange one. When we're talking about limited resources, we're talking about the need for people to get straight into the team, people that are ready. Of course, we understand you need to, we get the whole model that they're trying to get to, where they sign young players cheap and then sell them on for profit. We all get that. I mean, it's no rocket science. But to sign a young Moroccan forward coming from Moroccan football for what we're led to believe is somewhere in the region of $1 million, 1.5. I don't know if Rangers would dispute that now. But for him to sign and the manager effectively say he's not ready to train with the first team, never mind play for them, that's just bizarre, honestly. Really, really bizarre.
And we need to move on from Rangers, obviously, but Scott Egan, just one final comment. The major problem that needs to be addressed is why we're getting so many players injured. Is it training? I would say that's potentially cost Rangers to lose the title last season. They do seem to be plagued by injuries as well, Rangers, which doesn't help.
I know, but there's the manager kind of mentioned this last season, and it was almost like, this isn't my fault. Michael Beale hasn't had these guys fit enough. That's the reason that they're all breaking down. And don't worry about it, because I've got a plan for that, and I'm going to recalibrate the entire medical staff over the summer, and so this will never happen to us again. I promise you that by the start of next season, all these injury issues, because I've never faced anything like it in my whole career, was I think what he said.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a kind of curious thing to kind of promise that you were going to deliver as well, because injuries happen.
Exactly. You're setting yourself up.
And look at them now. You know, you've got Ridvan Yilmaz pulling up with a thigh.
Yilmaz has a shot the other night and pulls his thigh. I mean, what can you? I don't know if there's a lot you can do.
You can't legislate for that, can you?
In the game, exactly.
Meanwhile, the medics are picking the first 11. So,
aye.
Sorry, I know I keep saying we'll move on, but just one final one. Donald Urquhart. What about John Fleck? He's been training with Rangers, cost nothing. Is that ship sailed?
Listen, see, a couple of weeks ago when it emerged that John Fleck was in there, and people were asking me, "You think it might be a goer?" My instinct, my immediate reaction was no. That ship sailed. Do you know what I mean? John Fleck's at a stage in his career where he's maybe know what Rangers are looking for. But again, looking at the midfield the way it is just now, looking at the performances the last couple of games, knowing, as we've touched on, a lack of resources, if he's fit, would it be the worst? Would it be the worst move?
what age is John Fleck now, Scott?
32, I think.
32, aye.
Yeah, I'm sure you could get a couple of seasons out of him, and he has experienced, and he could play that position. You were saying you're crying out for a guy to actually dictate the game from the middle of the pitch, and he could give the experience to the likes of Connor Barron and Diamandi. I wonder, you know, we're talking about a plan A and plan B. You kind of wonder if John Fleck is hanging around thinking, right, well, do you know what? They might have to go plan
Hang
B.
around here long enough. I might get a few.
Good player, John Fleck. He's an excellent player.
He was playing Championship last season, so it's no. I think he had a few injuries at Blackburn and that, but I mean, a couple of seasons ago, Sheffield United, Premier League. I mean, the pedigree's there.
Mhm.
It's just, if you'd have said, as I say, a 32-year-old John Fleck at the start of the window, if you'd have said to most punters, they says, no, we're going to be, with all due respect, probably aiming a bit higher, a bit younger than that. But circumstances dictate. Tuesday night was a massive blow financially. It might be something that they look at now.
Another, by the way, string to his bow is the fact that he's Scottish.
Yeah.
Because they need to get up the quota of homegrown players.
And by the way, he also knows the club inside out, because
Mhm.
he's been there. He's a Rangers fan. I think we could probably do with a few guys like that in there that actually know the demands, the expectations of the club. So, listen, as it stands now, he's ticking a lot of boxes.
Scott Egan, Scott McDermott's got more chance of making that team than John Fleck.
Yeah.
Don't rule it out.
I might get down train with him. Hang a bit long enough.
We can't rule it out. Right, I should
If I can
say,
get a deal.
See if you can get a world-class breakfast.
I'll dictate the midfield.
in tonight's European games, it's still St Mirren are losing 1-0 to Brann. Kelly's still 1-0 up away at Tromso. But guys, elsewhere, the story that broke last night after we wrapped was the Old Firm lockout. It certainly generated a lot of talking points amongst fans and viewers. I mean, I could go to the comments right away, actually, but I thought maybe I'd get your guys' take on it to start with. It's whatever way you look at it, it's quite a sad situation that we still are in a scenario where we'll have no away fans at our biggest game.
It's depressing, is what it is.
As
And you think, it's like two kids squabbling in the play, and you think, you can't take your eyes off these for a minute. Turn your back, and here we go again. It's this old nonsense. They've got to understand, and this is because they are smart people. They should be smart people. They have to realise that this rivalry, this fixture, is the crown jewels in terms of whatever we manage to get, and we don't get great TV deals, but this is the big key selling point. And all they're doing with this constant to and fro is squabbling is they're really reducing the quality of the product.
Yeah.
People want to watch it. They want to get a feel for it. Listen, there's still good games to watch in terms of there'll be a lot of noise, there'll be a lot of passion. But see when the two sets of fans are engaging and they're going at each other, that raises and it's a bit of a curiosity shop. I accept that, but that's why a lot of people from outside this country will want to tune into it, because this is so intense. You don't get that in English football. You don't get it. You get it in South America. But it's a real selling point, and it's absolute bonkers that the two of them haven't got their heads around the table and come to a compromise on this. And even when they do reach a compromise, which isn't ideal, the next thing you know, all bets are off again.
And it always seems as if when there is a problem,
That's tit for
one side comes out, then the other side.
blame.
You feel like, see, can you just sit around a table and sort it out? I mean, it can't be that difficult. I totally agree with Jack. The fixture is not the same. I've said it for long enough. There has to be away fans at the Old Firm derby to make it what it is. I think, like most people, when the news came out, I don't know if it was just a few months ago, whenever it was, that they had finally come to this agreement and come to the compromise, I think everybody was so pleased that this season we were going to get derbies back again towards somewhere, to where it should be in terms of the away support. So when that news came through yesterday, as Keith says, just so depressing, and they need to try and get it sorted out ASAP.
William Hutchison has written in, he says, I can't believe we're back to no away fans again, just because Ibrox won't be ready for the second Old Firm. As a goodwill gesture, Celtic should allow Rangers fans into Parkhead. Brian Roger, Scottish football, no wonder it's a laughingstock. TV companies should just pull the plug and get it done with. Mara McDonald, it's controversial, but I would like to have seen Celtic stick to their part of the agreement and let fans in. We need away fans into grounds as much as possible. So I think we're all pretty much in agreement, it seems.
Everybody's in agreement. It's just the two of them that can't come to an agreement. I think Rangers are saying, they say they guarantee that the stadium would be fully open and fit for purpose by the New Year derby. Did I see that? I think I saw that.
I think it's a guarantee in terms of the safety measures put in place for that section of the ground. Celtic are clearly concerned. They're not convinced that certain safety measures are going to be put in place.
Maybe Celtic aren't
for
convinced
their
that Rangers are going to be back at Ibrox.
Well, that's another story, but it
Aye.
seems to be they want certain measures in place, and they're not convinced they're going to be for that game. But as Jacko says, tit for tat, Rangers are saying no, it'll be fine. It's all in hand. But listen, we're joking about it, but as you say, Rangers. No, James Bisgrove was telling everybody that the Copeland Road renovations would be sorted for the start of this season, and look where we are. So maybe Celtic are right to be slightly concerned. But either way, as I say, it has to be sorted out.
It's just depressing. It's depressing because we thought we were through it. We thought the two of them had finally put their big boy trousers on and sort of came to an amicable. So it's not an ideal solution, but an amicable one and a more workable one, and one that looks better for the Scottish game. And then here we are again. There are elements of this rivalry that you really kind of find it hard to have to endure. And this particular latest instalment, it's a saga now. It's been running for some considerable time. It does nothing for either. And actually, the Celtic fans there saying perhaps take the moral high ground and have Rangers fans in. Well, do you know what? I wonder if that comes into consideration at some point, because one of these guys has to be the big guy, and the one that does that will get the credit. So
never going to happen.
No, I guess not.
Well, fingers crossed, but I probably agree with you, Scott. Right, elsewhere, another story that broke last night again, just as we went off air, was Celtic finally signed Adam Idah. The transfer saga of the summer is finally over. He touched down at Prestwick Airport yesterday, put pen to paper on a 5-year deal. We talked about it earlier in the week, Keith. If it is the reported fee rising to £9.5 million, it's a lot of money, but, Celtic have got a lot of money, so, aye.
And they've now got the player the manager wanted. I don't think it's been terribly well negotiated from the start. I think, if Celtic had hammered out and agreed on a set fee at the time of doing the loan deal, then it would have been far easier to achieve. I think Norwich have looked at it and they've seen that, a guy that couldn't get into their first team is actually tearing it up a little bit up the road. So that put extra value on him right away. And then, this cat and mouse game that we've talked about over the summer, it was actually, to me, it always looked as if it was Celtic who were under the most pressure as opposed to Norwich. Norwich might have known that they had Adam Idah and they probably wanted to go to Celtic, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, it was Celtic's fans that were getting more and more angsty. It was Celtic's manager that was going into games without backup for a striker. It was Brendan Rodgers who was having a heart attack every time Kyogo held his shoulder.
Listen, talking about transfer saga, it might have dragged on even longer if Kyogo hadn't got an injury at the weekend, and Brendan Rodgers spoke about it after the game. You're looking at Kyogo thinking, his shoulders.
Absolutely, there was no wriggle room at that point. They had to get that deal done, and they had to get it done before Brendan Rodgers puts his team out again.
And Rodgers basically said that after the game when he was clear that, and sure enough, it quickly sped up to get him in the door.
But the one thing now is, and that's the challenge to Michael Nicholson at Celtic. He took a hell of a long time to do a couple of transfer deals, which everybody knew should have been easy, should have been obvious, and should have been quickly done in time for these players to rejoin the squad and get a proper pre-season. That should all have been done. It's taken weeks, have turned into months with these two deals. And there's only 2 weeks left now for the rest of them. So that's going to be fascinating. How far along the road are Celtic with the groundwork, laying the groundwork for the rest of the guys that Brendan Rodgers wants? Because you're kidding yourself if you think Brendan Rodgers is going to be satisfied with the work that's been done thus far, and you're kidding yourself if you think the fans will give you an easy ride if that's as good as it's going to get this month.
I totally agree, because you can imagine Brendan Rodgers at the end of last season when they're laying out the kind of transfer plans. You just know he would have said, well, first of all, we need they two back. So you need to get they two done. And the keeper's sorted, because I've spoke to Casper, so he's ready to
By the way, guys, I've done the work on that one as well.
So that's the 3 deals that he's probably thinking will be done, I would imagine, in the first few weeks of the summer. There's no way he could have envisaged having to wait this long. So as it stands now, he's got his keeper replacement in, and he's got the 2 boys that he had last season anyway. So it's almost like the window's starting now for Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, but he's still a striker down because O's gone.
Exactly.
So they're not even back to where they were. So Celtic are going to have to work hard, and they're going to have to work fast. And I think they're going to have to spend big. I keep saying it. They have to spend big.
Well,
they don't want to hear it. I know that, because you don't want to be seen as the club sitting with loads of money, because whoever it is that you're interested in, people are going, well, we can stick another zero on that transfer fee. And there will be a bit of that. But as reluctant as Celtic might be to spend money, I think they're going to have to, and they're going to have to maybe pay a premium. And Adam Idah is probably the first sign of that. It might have to be similar.
They'll have to if they want to do something in Europe.
Of course they do.
And that's what Brendan Rodgers.
That's what he said he was here for.
I think exactly.
Aye.
In terms of the Idah fee, it is big, but it kind of reminded me a wee bit of the Edward fee. They paid quite big
I paid
for
a lot of money
Edward.
for him.
But Rodgers was convinced about him in a similar way to Idah. He's seen potential, seen real potential, raw potential. That's 2 of them got quite similar qualities actually. And he sees obviously future potential selling value. And what did they get for Edward? 20?
Yeah, 25, 22 million
for Crystal Palace. So although it is a big fee, I'm sure that's what the manager will be thinking in terms of value. And if that is the case, then it's a good sign.
That's what Brendan Rodgers have been crying out for, that Celtic need to speculate, to accumulate.
Yeah.
Stop coming with 6 players worth £2 million.
Yeah, exactly.
See that £12 million? Spend it in 2.
Yeah.
Aye.
Spend it in 2 and you'll recoup the. But you've got to be brave enough to trust the judgment that this guy's worth £6 million, rather than spreading the chips across the table and going for a whole bunch of guys that because you're hoping that 1 or 2 of them might come good.
If Brendan Rodgers got what he wanted, he would probably swap Lagerbielke, Nawrocki and Stephen Welsh, for instance, for a bang £6 million centre back like Carter Vickers. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. Well, look, like the Rangers stuff we talked about earlier, this topic is definitely generating a lot of comments in the comment section below. This one, Celtic still needs centre back, left back, defensive midfielder, third striker, and a Matt O'Reilly replacement should he go, and if Mikey Johnson goes, another winger. This one here from Woozy, watching live on YouTube. Celtic brought in close to £8 million for 3 players. I think he's meaning Bosun Lol. I forget who the third player is.
Leila Bada,
there you go. So for the money, Idah is nothing essentially. We got the player we wanted. Who cares how much he was? Andy McLaren, he's a player, Idah, that will hit the ground running, and it's a good bit of business. His value will only increase. Time is a wee bit against us, guys, right? But before we crack on to the end of the show, 2 players that have been linked with Celtic on top of Idah. One is Dundee captain Luke McCowen. Definitely been talked about today. Is he one that you guys could envisage would make the step up and be a good player for Celtic?
I'd be surprised, I must admit, Daniel, and that's nothing against Luke McCowen, because I think he's a cracking player. At 27, is he the type that I think Brendan Rodgers would go for? Probably not, if I'm being honest. I think he would be looking at younger midfielders. But listen, Luke McCowen, I've only seen him live maybe a few times last season, highlights start of this season. I know he was really, I know James McPate quite well, and he really rates him, tried to get him to Dunfermline a couple of seasons ago and stuff like that. So, and he's clearly took his game to another level. I mean, we know Hibs are bidding for him. I think there's clubs in England are looking at him as well. He's taking on the responsibility of the captaincy. Tony Docherty has been brilliant for him, and giving him that and making him a mainstay in the team. Right at the heart of his team, because when he was younger he did play wide, but he's turned into this cultured central midfielder. So I think he'll definitely get a move. Will it be to Celtic? I would doubt it. Listen, I might be wrong, but I would doubt it.
I think Mark Fairfield written in watching live on YouTube. He says Cowan is a good player, but never going to be first choice for Celtic.
Well,
Paul,
could you imagine the reaction? There's Matt O'Reilly for
25 million.
25 million. But it's all right, boys. We've brought in
Look, McCowan for
Dundee's
£500
captain
to Dundee.
for a grand.
Aye.
No.
Paul McElwee, McCowan is a decent player and would improve under Rodgers. Dean Hurrell, McCowan would be a great signing, in my opinion. You touched on it there, Keith. I think, no doubt he's a good player, but Celtic fans would want a bit more in terms of an O'Reilly replacement. And one name that's been doing the rounds as well is Augsburg's Arne Engles. And any football hipsters might know that he's a name that's definitely been touted about as a potential Bundesliga star for the last couple of years. He's only 20.
Mm-hmm.
The reports today on Record Sport Online from reports across Germany, he's allegedly told friends that he would be quite fancy a Celtic move. The other team that's meant to be in for him is Rennes, and Celtic obviously have the Champions League. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to kid on it. I've seen him play, I know much about him. But on paper, he sounds like he could be a really good signing if Celtic can pull it off.
Yeah.
Okay, cheers.
Listen, I'd be lying if I said I knew enough about him. I'd tell you what, though, for Celtic to spend £900,
That'd be good.
9 million on the boy, he'd need to be really good. They'd need to be really convinced, and that's not to say that's not the case. But they have to be looking. And Brendan Rodgers kind of admitted already that no matter how much money they've got, no matter how much scouting they do, the bottom line is if they lose Matt O'Reilly, they're really going to struggle to find a player, recruit a player that will give them all the qualities that Matt O'Reilly does. So it's about sharing the burden a little bit, I would have thought.
The other thing is that they'll obviously sign a replacement for O'Reilly, and he'll cost money. So that's your first choice 3 in midfield if you sign an O'Reilly replacement. You've then got Bernardo behind that. You've got Odin Thiago Holm, who was highly rated, a bit like the Belgian boy, really highly rated before he came. He's only his early 20s, so there is other players there. And when you talk about McCowan in particular, you touched on it there. Is he going to play? I don't doubt he would get in there and do a good job.
Well, if Matt O'Reilly stays, he's just going to. He might as well get a season ticket at Celtic Park for all the football he's going to get.
Yeah, 5th or 6th choice midfielder. So I'm not sure. Certainly, if O'Reilly goes, a midfielder will come in to go straight into the team. I would imagine. I don't think Brendan Rodgers would think Bernardo's the direct.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
He said it. He's many times as he said the word. It's not managerial Morse code here. Quality, and when he says quality, what he means is guys that walk into that starting 11 and improve it immediately. Yeah. So you can't be taking a chance on McCowan and hoping that in the later stages of his career he blossoms into a top level European performer. You actually need to find a guy who is already considered a top level European performer if you're going to lose Matt O'Reilly. Yeah.
John Linningham on Watching Live on Facebook. Transfer fees don't make you a great player. There are many multi-million pound signings to prove this point. McCowan would fit well into the Celtic team regardless of his price. And just this one to finish. I think McCowan wouldn't play in front of Holm, Iwata or Bernardo. Never mind the first 3. Pointless for me. If a midfielder in Scotland, we should go for Lennon Miller, which is something I mentioned.
Forgot about Iwata. He's another one.
Aye, that's true. Guys, I think that more or less brings us to the end of today's Record Sport Hotline Live. I should say Keith was meant to, for everyone watching, Keith was supposed to be going on holiday for the next 2 weeks, but because the comments have been so great tonight and you've really been getting stuck in, he's actually agreed to postpone it. So Keith, we really appreciate that.
Adios, amigos.
No, have a good time. We'll certainly miss you.
Never mind that. What's the Kelly score?
I was going to say, they're almost at half time, still winning 1-0 in Tromsø. Craig's won at that one, he'll be loving it. St Mirren still 1-0 down to Brann.
Still on the tie.
Yeah. Still on the tie, 2-1 in aggregate. Those games just on the verge of half time, so fingers crossed for both of them. Everyone watching that sent in a comment, thank you very much. Comments have been brilliant tonight. We'll be back on Sunday for the next Record Sport Hotline Live. Hope you'll join us. Scott, Keith, it's always a pleasure.
Cheers, Daniel.
Thanks for watching. Cheers.